Hey everyone, Rich from RDVFL here, and today we're going to be talking activity to the OEM radio and two different devices and how the sequences and how the events of connectivity affect the functionality. So, in our first scenario, when you're connecting to wireless CarPlay or wireless Android Auto, there's a few different ways that you are going to actually connect depending on what you're connecting to. If you are connecting to just a single device that has the Android Auto and CarPlay built into it, then you're going to first connect your Bluetooth. And then the Bluetooth connection will automatically make the Wi Fi connection for you. Wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto work on both Bluetooth and Wi Fi. So Bluetooth handles the audio and Wi Fi handles all of the data transfer. And the Wi Fi connection is done automatically. So you never have to connect directly from your phone to any device with your Wi Fi. The Bluetooth connection makes that handshake for you for the Wi-Fi. So it makes it seamless when you're connecting to wireless CarPlay or wireless Android Auto. Now, if you are connecting to multiple different devices at the same time, and a scenario where you have the factory radio handling the OEM Bluetooth audio and phone calls, and then the CarPlay device handling all of the media functions and data functions. So essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to pair your phone to the factory Bluetooth for phone calls and for music streaming. You will test those features, make sure your maps works, make sure Siri works, make sure phone calls and music streaming and everything is working, and you have sound from all of your sources and everything is functioning correctly as far as the audio goes. Then, when you pair to the CarPlay interface, the phone will send all of the audio directly to the factory Bluetooth, and the CarPlay interface will handle all of the display and control, leaving the phone to send all of the audio to the factory Bluetooth and essentially leaving the CarPlay interface without even handling the audio or dealing with the audio transfer because it's separate from the data transfer that's over Wi Fi. So, in our next scenario, we're going to be talking about how to connect for screen upgrades. So, depending on how the car is configured, there could be multiple different ways to make the connection to the system. And it also depends on how the screen itself is configured. So, primarily in vehicles with factory Bluetooth phone calls and music streaming, depending on the vehicle and depending on the phone and also depending on the screen, you may be able to use the OEM Bluetooth for all of the audio, phone calls, music streaming, everything. In some scenarios, you will have to have the phone handle the phone call audio with the factory Bluetooth, and then the phone send the media audio, like music streaming and stuff like that, to the screen itself. And then the screen will introduce the audio into the factory system, whether through aux or through an AMI or through another actual Bluetooth channel sometimes, sometimes it's a USB input. So depending on the scenario, it will determine exactly how you're making those connections. So, for example, in vehicles that doesn't have Bluetooth at all, no phone call Bluetooth, no music streaming Bluetooth, then the screen will handle all of that audio no matter what. So it will take the phone call audio, it will take the streaming audio, and it'll run that through usually the aux input of the vehicle. A lot of those older vehicles that didn't have either Bluetooth streaming or even Bluetooth hands free, or it's so old that it doesn't work anymore, those vehicles all usually came equipped with an aux input because that was the technology back then. So that's what you want to utilize for the audio in and run everything through the screen itself. Then you have some scenarios where the car only had Bluetooth phone calls and no Bluetooth streaming. And in those cases, the factory Bluetooth will handle the phone calls, and then the screen upgrade will handle all of the audio streaming portion as far as music and all the additional other audio streaming features that goes along with it. And that will be ran usually through the factory aux of the vehicle, because those vehicles also, again, usually that only had factory Bluetooth for phone calls, have an aux input because that was a technology of those days. So there's a few different ways that you could use the screens. You can do everything through the screen, phone call audio, music streaming audio. You could do it in a hybrid fashion where the factory Bluetooth handles phone calls and the screen handles the audio portion, the streaming portion. And then in some cases, you can do everything through the factory Bluetooth phone calls, music streaming, everything. And the screen essentially just becomes the source for the visual and the control. Now, the screen upgrades also do have features built into them, some of them like YouTube, Netflix, and streaming. Video streaming services built in and other features as well, like USB thumb drive playback and a bunch of other things that you could do on the screens. Now, in those scenarios, the screens themselves are the actual source. So you cannot rely on the phone to send the audio to the factory Bluetooth because the phone is no longer the source. The source now becomes the screen. The screen has to send the audio directly from itself into the factory radio, into the factory audio system. Most of the time, that's going to be through aux, could be through USB, or even could be through an additional Bluetooth adapter. So the screens are very versatile and can be used a lot of different ways depending on what the vehicle was equipped with or wasn't equipped with. So, one of the easiest ways to overcome connectivity problems, whether it's Bluetooth or Wi Fi for CarPlay, Android Auto, just for music streaming or phone calls, when you're dealing with an iPhone, is something called a forced restart. Now, this procedure is different on some of the older iPhones, but the newer generation, last 4 or 5 generations of iPhone, it's a pretty straightforward procedure that's also in the iPhone manual. So this is a procedure that Apple recommends that you do when the phone freezes and you no longer can actually turn it off and back on. But this additionally clears the cache on a lot of the devices on the phone itself as far as hardware goes, the Bluetooth chip and things of that nature. And the clearing of the cache allows the Bluetooth chip to free up its connectivity again. So what happens is when the cache is built up or clogged up, or you have too much um, memory built up in there, it doesn't want to cooperate and it doesn't want to connect. So what this does is this basically refreshes it, and 99% of the time, this solves most connectivity problems. And on the iPhone, basically, you press and release volume up, press and release volume down, and then you press and hold the power button until the screen goes black and the Apple logo pops up. Takes about 20 to 25 seconds. You have to make sure that you do not use the slider because then you're just turning the phone off and you're not actually doing the forced restart. So that exact procedure is important. You could also Google iPhone forced restart. Additionally, clearing out unused Bluetooth devices, Wi-Fi devices, and going into the settings on the iPhone and going into general, going into CarPlay and deleting whatever devices are there stored in the phone all help massively when it comes to connectivity. And then another thing to keep in mind is that if you use a VPN on your phone, CarPlay will not work. CarPlay utilizes your location in order to function, and if you use a VPN on your phone, you will not have CarPlay or Android Auto. Android phones, a little more straightforward. You just want to try to do a reset, um, clear your cache, clear out any Bluetooth devices, Wi-Fi devices, Android Auto devices, and try to reestablish the connection. The iPhone has a few more things that you can do as far as the forced restart and whatnot. But Android is usually pretty straightforward in doing resets and whatnot, and deleting the unused devices out of the phone, and that will always help with connectivity. So, multiple phones is always a question that we get, and always seems to be something that people are concerned about if they're going to be utilizing two phones in the vehicle at the same time on the same system. And you want to make sure that whoever is not driving and not utilizing the system either disables their CarPlay or turns off their Bluetooth and their Wi-Fi if they don't need it while they're going, and it just prevents the phone from getting confused or trying to force the connection while the other phone is there. If it disconnects for any reason when you get out of the car, get back in the car, the other phone may try to force the connection. So I always recommend, when you are traveling with two phones in the same vehicle, to turn one off as far as its connectivity goes for, whether CarPlay or Android Auto, just so there's no conflicts. Most of the time, there's not usually a big issue as far as, phones conflicting with each other once everything's connected, but it just makes it a little bit easier and gives you a little bit more peace of mind if you're going to be traveling and, you're not going to need those features on your phone. It's easy to just go in there and just disable them, turn them off. And that wraps up our workshop for today on how to manage your Bluetooth connectivity for different devices in your vehicle. And I hope you guys learned something today. If you have any other questions or want further information about, this category, or any of these devices, reach out, rdvfl.com, or give us an email, sales@rdvfl.com, or support@rdvfl.com, and we're more than happy to help.